Hello and welcome to Categories TV. Our special guest today is singer-songwriter Sraha Moon. Now, Sraha, I got to tell you, until your publicist reached out to me, told me about your new album, never heard of you, and I'm glad she did because I got to tell you, typically I'm a guy that listens to hard rock and metal. In spite of all that, I love the new album. So let's get a little background on you. Where are you originally from, and have you always have you played in bands, or is this kind of you always been a solo artist?
All right, well, let's get right into it. I spent about half of my life, I was born and mostly raised in South Dakota,
Oh wow.
but I have a West Coast connection. So I spent a lot of time touring with my parents who run a sound company, who used to run a sound company up and down the West Coast. So I spent a lot of time in the Portland area, Portland, Seattle, LA, and Vancouver, BC.
Uh, oh wow. And again, is this your debut album? Because again, I'm just loving it. It's like they used to make albums back in the day, where it sounds like every song of the album belongs on the album. It was made to fit with all these collections of tunes.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you dig it. So I also have a blues album and an Americana album. This is my third album, but this is
Wow.
my heaviest and most in your face.
Yeah. That's what I liked about it. Maybe I think overall though, what's great is they're just great songs. I can tell you're a great songwriter. So is that something that you've always kind of prided yourself on, is your ability to write a good song, or would you say that's something you've had to really kind of work to develop?
It's one of those things that, when I picked up a guitar, I was like, okay, what am I going to play? And I just started kind of writing at that point, when I was a teenager. And it's just something that I really enjoy doing, although I love to sing other people's songs and I do a fair amount of covers and whatnot as well when I'm performing. But yeah, it's just um, it's a good release for me to get some of these
So
emotions out.
you play live much these days, or?
Yeah, I actually play quite a bit. I'm in three bands at this point, but yeah, the Sraha Moon Band, we've done our CD release and we have a couple shows in the works. We have another show coming up over 4th of July weekend in Independence, Oregon. There's this great little downtown kind of amphitheater area that we'll be playing in.
Well, I'd love to see if you ever get in LA, or but the title track, I got to tell you, I listened to that and it's kind of got attitude. I like it. It's kicking and rocking. I mean, this is what I said. It sounds like you sound like on that song a modern day Janis Joplin.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a cool compliment.
I
Thank
know she's
you.
a little before your time, but have you ever listened to any of her music? Is she an
Oh,
inspiration at all?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've sung my fair share of Janice. You bet. She's an icon.
yeah, yeah. And she's one of those artists that very much like yourself, great talented singer and songwriter, but died way too young, for obvious reasons. But
Yeah.
if you look at that little bit of life she got, look at all those great tunes she left.
Yeah. What a legacy.
Yeah, yeah. And that's not always an easy thing to do. When you die so tragically young. And then another track. I mean, I just love it all. But I listened to the track. I don't know. A great ballad has a real soulful kind of feel to it. And again, what I did about the overall sound of the album is not only as you listen to the album does each song kind of, it's one of those albums gets better and better, but each song kind of stands out on its own. It's not like a collection of a record collection of tunes that sound all the same. Every tune sounds kind of different and has a life of its own, and that's kind of what I enjoyed about it.
That's great. I'd like to hear that. There was no like, we didn't set out to write a certain style.
That's
It's
what I'm
just
saying. I
like
can
how
kind
the
of hear that.
songs
It's kind of
kind of just came to fruition on their own. Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, it's kind of one of those albums that is meant to be listened to like back when we used to
like
get an album and
I
like
can see
listen to start to
listening to
finish.
this,
Yeah.
having a CD of this and listening to it in my car as I'm driving to work or something.
Yeah, definitely. That was the focus of the album. I was like, let's make a driving album. Let's put one of those road trip albums out, where you're like, just pop it in the car and go.
And then Golden Silences, that's another great tune. I mean, to me, that's kind of again got a soulful kind of country feel to it.
Yeah.
And some of them are a little more rockins, but every a lot of it's got soul and like you're the kind of performer I can tell you really, in order to sing these songs, perform, you got to really sing them from the heart, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, who are
Yeah,
some of
definitely.
your
I
heroes growing up? Who are some artists that inspired you?
Oh, I'm heavily influenced by Etta James, so that's probably that sort of like blues soul
Yeah, I hear
aspect
that in
that
a
you
lot of
hear
the
in there.
songs. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. The big voices, the big, strong female, voices.
Yeah, only you stay. Another kind of real kind of rockin', kicking tune. You got elements of country in there too.
Oh, you hear country and Only You Stay?
I mean, a little bit. Like I said, elements of it.
Okay,
Thinking, I don't
okay.
know, maybe I gotta give that a listen again. But throughout a lot of the songs, there's kind of like, I guess when I say country, not your traditional country, kind of like these more modern like pop country, what you hear on the radio.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, it's always fun to hear what people get out of the album because, my ears hear one thing and your ears it hits your ears differently.
And then make you feel whole again, rocking and kicking tune. It has
Hmm.
that's the kind of song I could see really getting the crowd at a concert going, up on their feet and um,
Yeah,
bring the whole crowd together.
you bet. That's a danceable one for sure.
Knocking me down, great to me. That's a great inspirational song. I mean, just maybe based it on my own life experiences. Like I could see that being about somebody that's like, I'm not going to let anybody get me down. You try to
Right.
stop me from doing what I want to do, and I'm going to still be here.
Absolutely. That's the biggest empowerment song. And it'd be cool to like make a video with that one, I think. It's kind of one of the ones that's on the list to
And
do
then
next
and
for a
then
video just because
really
it
love
has such visuals.
the way I used to be. I mean, that another inspiration. I mean, that kind of I picture that as you kind of as a writer, you kind of looking back on your life, this like remembering the good old days. This is the way it used to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's definitely a tearjerker. It can be a little tough to sing every once in a while.
And so like just those tunes we talked about. I mean, all great tunes, and you're definitely a great songwriter. But and I can tell you're an artist too that is inspired by many different types of music. So I think that makes you a better writer too when you listen to more than just one thing.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I mean, some people are just naturally inspired by their own, capabilities and abilities as musicians. But, I listen to a lot of different music, very diverse. Like if you were to look into my music collection, you'd be surprised at the the amount of stuff in there that people probably never heard of. Just I just when I like something, it hits my ear a certain way, and it doesn't matter if it's popular or not.
Again,
It's
I'm
much
just
matter if
talking
it's
to you for
not.
the first time, just listening to this album for the first time. But in doing so, I think what makes you a great songwriter too, Sarah, is that I imagine you're one of these people that these songs are like a page out of your life story, kind of.
These ones aren't as much as the first two albums, but they're, they'll be based on little tidbits. So I have a songwriting partner and sometimes we'll just be in conversation. We're like, okay, well let's use this conversation to write the next song or his maybe it's his experience or maybe it's something we've heard a friend talk about. But yeah, I mean there's always a little personal aspect to it.
And let's talk about interpretation because I imagine you get people like me or your fans at your concerts coming up to you and telling you, "Hey, Sarah, I just love this particular song on the album. This is what it
Mhm.
meant to me." And you're like, "Well, hey, that's not what I wrote about, but hey, if that's what you get out of it, great." And interpretation, I think, is great too because that's the beauty of being a songwriter, a musician. People can, based on their own life experience, get something totally different out of one of your songs.
Absolutely. I love that. I mean, I think that's what it's all about, really. I mean, any form of art, people
Sure.
are going to interpret it for their own meaning. And I love hearing what people have to say. Like, wow, I've had people going through really hard times come up to me and be like, I don't know, really hit me. Like that song really spoke to me. And then other people are, in kind of a more happy part of their life and they're like, oh, Golden Silence, this was great. That's cool.
So, what was the hardest thing about making the album Cut and Run? I mean, were all these songs like written and recorded in the same time frame, or was it done over a period of time?
So cut and run, the pandemic is the short answer. The pandemic really screwed us on making this album, but we got it done.
Yeah.
So we started demoing. My songwriting partner Brandon Cook and I met with a producer and started the demo process. So he and I had written all the songs.
Yeah.
Met with the producer, started demoing. Pandemic hit, and so we were continuing to record in three different places and try to like put this cohesiveness together. That's, again, when you're working with producer, that makes it easy. But we're working in like, the corner of a garage, so we're socially distanced at like, you know, freezing temperatures, trying to keep our hands warm and voices warm, and you know,
I mean, talk about
and then
technology. That's the amazing thing is I've interviewed
yeah,
bands that the album was recorded like where everybody lives in a different part of the world, and yet
yeah.
it still comes out amazingly sounding like you were in the same room together.
Yeah, it's so cool. And then once we finally got to the point where things had mellowed out and everybody could actually be in the same room, we got the band assembled, and then we recorded it during like the height of summer. So I live in Portland, Oregon, where it doesn't generally get above 100 degrees, and it definitely doesn't stay there. And
Yeah,
we
yeah.
were recording in like 115-degree weather.
Wow, wow.
So I mean, we had some weather, impacting us. Luckily, we had access to AC for most of that, except for the last night of tracking. I was like tracking some super high notes and no AC, and I was like, all right, let's do it.
So
um,
yeah, wow.
that was the toughest part. Just dealing with the pandemic was the
You're
toughest part,
obviously the
though.
one doing the vocals, but do you play any guitar or other instruments on the album?
Yes, I do. I play guitar on the album as well.
And here's a crazy question I want like to ask people like did you like a lot of people start out as simply just wanting to learn how to play the guitar and kind of morphed into a singer, or did you always kind of do both?
I was a singer first. I grew up as a violinist. I played a little piano and I was a violinist, and I joined a children's choir. And so I'm classically trained. I have a background in opera. And I picked up a guitar, just, I mean, they're
Oh,
always
just to
around
see.
the house,
Right?
but I picked up a guitar so I could accompany myself.
Sure, sure.
And then over the years, just, it's become more of a focus. And I actually play Nancy Wilson in a Heart tribute band. So I play guitar.
What's the name of the band, if you don't mind me asking?
It's called Barracuda, and we're
Oh,
based out of Vancouver, BC. So they call me the American import.
well, I
Everyone
gotta
else is
tell you,
Canadian.
I've been a big supporter of tribute bands for a big fan of what they do for
Have
years.
you? Yeah.
And I've often interviewed many of them, and people tell me, "Oh, why would you interview a tribute band?" And I go, "Oh, it's quite an they got quite an interesting story, And a lot of people have the
Yeah.
misconception, oh, they're fellow musicians, they're playing other people's music. But I like to call it rock and roll theater. I mean, especially the
That's what
bands,
I say. It's like musical theater for sure.
especially the bands that don't just play the songs, but great, but they dress the part. I mean,
Yeah.
I seen a
It's a
great
lot
Guns
of
N'
fun.
Roses tribute here in LA, and I tell you, seeing them at the Whiskey, it was like seeing Axl Rose in his heyday in 1987. I could have sworn I was at a Guns N' Roses concert. They were that good.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have some really stellar tribute acts up here in the Pacific Northwest, but especially in Portland. We actually have a 3-day festival called Hair Fest,
yeah.
where all of our tribute acts play, and it's massive. It's so much fun.
Sure. And we had in Los Angeles here where I'm from, we had the premier Van Halen tribute band. I don't know if you ever heard of them, Atomic Punks. And the singer, the original singer from that band, he he's a singer now in Steel Panther. I don't know if you know who they are. Kind of
Oh, okay.
another
Didn't
great.
they just audition? They were just on one of
Oh yeah,
those
yeah,
shows.
yeah, yeah. I think it was America's Got Talent.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So the guy doing the lead singing of that, he started out doing David Lee Roth and the Atomic Punks out here, and they were at the time the premier Van Halen tribute. They were probably the biggest tribute at the time out here, along with the Iron
Cool.
Maidens. Yeah,
Yeah, cool.
and that is cool because when you think like a band even like the Iron Maidens, all female Iron Maiden tribute, they've taken
Hmm.
their show around the globe, in Russia and Mexico,
Yep.
and they've been all over. So I think when you can not just play other people's music, but you can do it successfully and take your show around the road. That's quite something special.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And being a female singer, I could see you. I could see you paying tribute to a great female rock band like Heart. I mean, talk about how big of a Heart fan you must be to do that.
Yeah, well, and they have such a big catalog. They have like the hits. You hear a lot of the 80s hits on the radio still these days, but um there's so many uncharted songs that I
Back
was
to the
like,
'70s,
I
they
had
had a
to
lot of.
learn all this new material that I'd never heard of before.
You go back to the
It's been
'70s, they
really
had a
fun.
lot of great heavier kind of hits like Barracuda,
Hmm.
obviously. Um,
Hmm.
and all that stuff. I just love. I mean, I dare people to go get Heart's greatest hits because a lot of people think Heart just did the great, the pop stuff in the '80s, but there's much more to their catalog of music than that.
Oh, there's so much more, and actually, when Heart first started out, they didn't have enough material, so they covered a bunch of Zeppelin,
Yeah,
and they were known as Little Zepp,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so I get to play Zepp as well, so which is
That's,
win-win for me. Heart and
yeah,
Zepp in the same night, perfect.
yeah. And so, how did you originally get turned on to Heart? Just somebody turned you on, or you heard a song on the radio?
My parents. Yeah, my dad bought me one of the like, which one was it? He bought me Bad Animals when I was younger, and just bought me
Yeah, if your kids from the
Heart to
'80s,
listen
that's
to.
the one, you know. Yeah,
Yep, yep.
for MTV. And have you ever had people take you have trouble getting people take you seriously because you are a female artist?
I feel like there is a little bit of that, but I mean, the scene here in Portland is so supportive,
Yeah,
and most of us know each other, so there's not a lot of that. But more online,
yeah.
right? So like, not on my personal pages, but I definitely see it on the Barracuda page where people are like, chicks," you know, you're just like,
Yeah,
really, Heart had to deal with this, though we still got to deal with it in 2023. But
yeah.
for the most part, people are stoked and people are,
And
supportive.
these days, I unfortunately, the Wilson sisters aren't really speaking as far as I know. They're
Yeah, they're touring separately these days.
so in a way that's not great, but it's good for you because I mean you're still out there putting on a great Heart show for the fans, and they can't get the
Yeah,
real thing. You're maybe the next best thing.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so let's tell people where they can find you online, Sarah, and how they can get the new album if they want to.
Absolutely. So, sarahmoonmusic.com or Sarah Moon Music on Instagram and Facebook. So I keep it simple, Sarah Moon Music. And then the album, I have hard copies. So if you're, dying for a hard copy, you can reach out to me or you can get one at a show. And it's available on all streaming platforms.
And how surprised have you been with all the great reviews it's been getting?
It's been overwhelming, in the most wonderful way. People really seem to dig it, and I'm glad because we put our heart and souls into it.
And talk about the power of internet. I mean, it's amazing. I'm sure you get people not just from where you are from locally in the United States, but probably people checking it out from around the world, places you haven't even stepped foot in. That's got to be
Yeah,
a pretty great feeling.
yeah, definitely. It's it brings us all together a little bit closer.
Yeah, yeah. And so when you do play out live, your solo music, how
Yeah.
hard is it to do come up with a set list?
Well, not too bad right now because
Stuff up the
we're
new album.
doing the album itself, right? So we're doing cut and run. And then we have I have some other material I can pull from, but I just have some covers that are near and dear to my heart. So like we play some Offspring to kind of bring it punk.
Wow.
I always like to finish the night with a Beatles song and typically on like, you know, really intimate shows, I'll hand out lyrics, and so everyone can sing along with whatever the Beatles tune is for the evening. We've been doing Helter Skelter, which is a little less of a campfire sing along
Yeah,
song and more of just in your
what's
face.
funny about that? In many of the interviews I do, I bring up Helter Skelter because I say anybody listening to this, there's a good portion of the audience going to think that Helter Skelter is a Motley Crue song, but
Ah,
I, I tell people
yeah,
that's like as metal as the Beatles ever got, but that's where that's where it came from. Yeah.
totally. Right, right, right. Yeah, no, they did a pretty cool version of it for sure. I actually used to sing in a Motley Crue tribute band at one point,
Wow.
so yeah.
Well, I would have loved to see that. I see you do a great, probably imitation of Vince Neil, female.
Well, I did back up for that one because Vince is a little tough. He likes to sing a little pitchy
Well,
to be
he's
nice.
not your traditional vocalist, but yet
Yeah,
what he does works for that band.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Oh wow, I would have, Shout at the Devil, the Molly Crew album that Helter Skelter was on, celebrating 40 years. That's why I say that album's 40 years old, and so people that weren't around when that was released, the original version by the Beatles, they think, hey, that's a Molly Crew song. No, no, that's the Beatles.
Depends on what generation you're from, right? Yeah.
It all came from somewhere. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and so you said people can get physical copies, so that I always dig that because I'm an old school guy, and I
Yeah.
know modern day technology. Everybody wants to just download everything and have everything immediately, but I came from a generation where I used to love to buy the albums and look at the artwork.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah. Well, if you want a CD, I'm happy to send you one. We could
I'll
get
tell you
your
what. Yeah,
address somehow.
I'll reach out to you on Facebook and hook up with
Okay.
you there. And and showing my appreciation for that, I'll tell you, I'll take it a step further, and I'll write up a review myself because I would love to spread the word about this album. Because I tell you, I'm just an instant fan, and I think anybody
Awesome.
listening to
Thank you.
this album, I think they will, because again, it's great songs, and at the end of the day, that's the important thing. I mean, obviously, I'm a huge Kiss fan here. Kiss is a band
Hmm.
around for 50 years. A lot of times people say, oh, they're not the greatest musicians, but I'll tell you what, they're great songwriters, and you can't be
Hmm.
around for 50 years and not have great songs.
True.
Yeah,
Yep. And a following like Kiss does. Wow.
yeah. So I just talking to you, I can tell your influences are all over the place, but I think that's why you're such a great gifted songwriter. I mean, I don't know how long like these songs took you to write, but it sounds like probably to me anyways, I'm like, oh, she sounds pretty good. Like this stuff just comes easy. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah. No, it comes pretty quickly. Yeah. Generally either I have pre-written some lyrics and then we kind of put it to music, or I have a vocal idea and then we write a progression around it, or sometimes I just have a bunch of I write a lot, so I'll just free write, and then my songwriting partner will come to me
Yeah.
with a progression or kind of a riff, and then we'll write around it.
And then I got to ask how you hooked up with Brandon Cook, because never met the
Hmm.
man personally, but I'm friends with him on Facebook, and I know he's involved with a
Okay.
lot of stuff, and he's great at
Yeah.
what he does. So how did you hook up with him?
He and I, we got put in this, like, I don't know if you'd call it a variety show, but there was a radio DJ named Rick Emerson, and he had a house band called Emerson Starship, and we were hired to play the Crystal Ballroom for this roast of Rick Emerson,
Wow.
and it was this really cool, like, who's who of Portland event, and somehow I think through my buddy Jaris introduced us, and the rest is history. So he and I have been playing music and writing music together ever since. So, nearly 20 years at this point.
Oh wow, wow, that's great.
Hmm. Yeah.
In fact, the fact that you have a partnership that goes up 20 years, that's great. Um,
Yeah. I mean, not solid for sure. Like
yeah,
but yeah, the past like 10 years, we've been in a lot of projects together for
oh,
sure.
that's
Yeah.
great to hear. That you have that kind of chemistry, somebody where you're that type that you can just get together and you come up with something
Mhm.
special. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And he's a good dude. He's easy to work with for sure.
so, these songs are like I've been saying throughout this interview. I just love them. They're so great. Which obvious question is any thought of a music video? Or I mean, I know it's not easy to do, but
Yeah, no, we have one in the works. We filmed a video for the title track Cut and Run. Gosh, was it 2 weeks ago or so now? So yeah, I'll expect to have that out in about a month or so.
I'll tell you, maybe in about a month, I'll hit your publicist Jody up again, and we can hook up
Okay,
another. I'd love to talk about the video once I've had a chance to see it, and further spread the love for this stuff you're doing, because it's just great, I think.
that'd be wonderful. I'd enjoy that. Thank you.
Okay, well, Sarah, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your very busy schedule talking. It's been a blast, as you can tell. Fan of what you do.
Yeah.
Kind of a new fan, but I think I'm here to stay. So I'll hook up with you on
Well, let's
Facebook.
hope so.
So I'll hook up with you on Facebook as far as maybe give me a CD, and like I said, in return, I'd love to write a review. So we'll do that.
Okay, that'd
Take
be awesome. Thank you so much.
take care, Sarah. Enjoy the rest of your day. And the interview we just did is going to be going up sometime next week. I'll let Jody know, and feel free to
Okay,
post it on any of your sites if you wish to do so.
I would love to. Thanks so much.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.